thank you all for joining this amazing presentation. It's very important because we're towards the end of the semester, and I know so many people are like, oh, yes, this came right in hand as far as with you probably feeling burnt out, trying to find a new self-care strategy. So just wanted to introduce myself a little bit more. I'm Andrea Stallworth, as mentioned before, licensed clinical social worker, been in practice, oh gosh, 18 years. It doesn't feel like that. Been in academia 4 years now. On the right-hand side, if any of you ever visit Tuskegee University, this is what our beautiful campus looked like, the historic Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama. This conversation is definitely needed. Being a social worker, I have been burnt out, in which we're going to talk about, but we're going to, take it further and talk about being burnt out, and also too some strategies we can all, discuss and engage with. So this is going to be an engaging conversation. So I don't want my voice to be the only one. And we're going to go ahead and move forward. All right. So we're going to have a nice icebreaker. I like to do icebreakers, and I like to just create a space for us, a peaceful space, a safe space, because a lot of times we have students coming in and out the door. We're in meetings. Sometimes we're just like always on the go. So I just want everyone to get centered, and just be grounded. So it's called Breathe and Be. I love just to take some deep breaths, or just any type of breaths that you feel comfortable with doing. So if you're in a place that you can plant both feet on your on the ground, just take a second to place your hand over your heart and just relax. A lot of times we don't have time to relax. So like I said, we're like always on the go. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And I'm going to read 3 affirmations that's pertaining to the reason why we got into academia, the reason why that, we are of service to our students, to our institution, and even to ourselves or our families as well. So the first one, and just take some nice breaths. My work is essential, right? My work is essential. You can breathe, take some time. So even while I am being productive. So even while I am being productive. Take some breaths. And it's okay to ask for help. And I think so many times we forget about that. So I'm going to read the last one again. It is okay to ask for help. So take some deep breaths. You can take 2 or 3 breaths and just center yourself so we can engage into this presentation. And this is just one part of self-care that you can take with you, right? It's free. If you like to go to the spa, that's awesome. But this, to really breathe, many times we hold our breath, we clench our jaws when we get upset. Some people may grind their teeth at night because of the tension and the burnout. Our bodies really manifest burnout, the physical, the mental, the emotional piece of it. All right. So first poll question, and we're going to have a poll for you all. How do you prioritize self-care to combat burnout as a faculty member? And just a self-awareness, be honest, be authentic. This is a safe space, right? So how do you prioritize self-care to combat burnout as a faculty member? Can we see some answers coming in? And like I said, this is just for you a nice warm up, how you prioritize self-care to combat burnout as a faculty member. I see the answers, they're coming in quick. So we give you all a few more seconds because I'm so interested to see the answers. Let's see, 10 more seconds. So we'll end it in a minute and 30. All right. Can we see the answers? Share results. All right. Can we see the results? Because it says stop sharing, so I don't see the results.
It might be showing our individual. I can see my
Oh, you all can see it? Let me see. Thank you.
It went away now.
Oh,
I know it's back. Yeah, I can see mine.
okay. So I'm not able to see. So if you all can share, let's just do that. For those who answered the poll, would anyone like to share how you prioritize self-care to combat burnout as a faculty member?
So I think that it came through on my end, so I was able to see them. So I can just read some off.
Okay.
Some people said, I try to set a routine for the week/month, exercise, take wellness days, set boundaries, have a hard stop each day, take mental health moments, set reminders to get up from my desk and walk outside. Now, I tell myself they will replace me the next day if something happens to me tomorrow. So looking like trying to get more and better with self-care, working out, meditation, prayer, journaling, acting on it when you feel burnout as your top priority. That's another great one. Prevention is better than cure. Brain breaks are necessary. Yoga. Taking breaks throughout the day, making sure you go to lunch, also taking time off if you need, as well as prayer. So yeah, a nice
Yes, all great variety of self-care. And I like what someone said. I had a laugh about, they'll replace me. I always say that, so people always tell my colleagues, like, never die for a job, right? And which we're going to talk about as well. So like I said, it's very important that we have self-care. All right, so let's go into it. All right, so thank you all. So these lovely people are my parents. And so once upon a time, when I was practicing as a licensed clinical social worker, I was living back on the East Coast. I found myself at 29 burnt out as a clinician, as a social worker. Never in my curriculum, undergrad school or grad school, anyone mentioned to me, hey, you're going to be burnt out if you do not take care of yourself. I found myself, my body manifested burnout because I was trying to, as my parents said, burn the midnight oil, didn't have boundaries as people discussed. Also to kept piling on my plate by saying, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can, be on this committee. Yes, I can be on this board. And at the time I was a newlywed, I was thinking, okay, I'm a newlywed, I'm turning 30 the next year. This happens when you turn 30, but no, it was actually just taking on more of my limitation and not saying no. So as I mentioned before, I found myself depressed, anxious. I had to take medical leave. I was director of a nonprofit agency in Providence, Rhode Island. I also struggle with this. I call it a illness called perfectionism, because my whole life I've been a perfectionist, also to an overachiever. So I broke up with those things, and I'm still in recovery, right? So many of you all probably still in recovery as well, of being a perfectionist and also an overachiever, because hey, we're in academia, we're in the ivory tower. So I put my parents' pictures here to remind me to slow down. They always tell me, slow down, take breaks. My dad texts me every day still, hey, are you taking a break? Are you working too hard? Slow down. Maybe you need to garden. Maybe you need to take a walk, right? And just take it one moment at a time. So hence why my attitude changed when it comes to, I have to constantly, quote unquote, be on the grind. We all have to recharge, and we all have to have reminders from our support system to slow down. Okay, so just wanted to share that with you all, and I'm going to look in the chat too. Okay, awesome. We have same as well. All right, so this is just some stats that I researched. Now, usually I do this presentation to social workers, but I found this quite interesting. The stats that I was researching, when it came to faculty members. And some of you all could say, yes, that's me. I have experienced that, or know someone who has experienced this. So the first one I got from American Federation of Teachers found that 70%, that's an alarming rate, of faculty respondents reported experiencing burnout. Everyone probably can agree to this one. Heavy workload. Maybe you're teaching 4 or 5 classes each semester. Pressure to publish. This for my tenure track folks. I'm tenure track as well, so I get it. Administrative duties for those who may, be professors and also in a dual role as an administrator, right? As myself, I find myself like, okay, I have to find the balance, and lack of work-life balance. Not pouring everything into your work and forgetting about your personal life, forgetting about your family, right? Forgetting about that support system to say, hey, you need to slow down. I get it. That's your tenure track, or you're trying to maintain certain things, or trying to even help your students, but you have to help yourself first. So that was the first alarming burnout stat. I'm going to go below that. The second one, Journal of College Student Development, found that 60% of university students, so we're going to talk about our students really quickly, have experienced overwhelming anxiety. And I would definitely say it got higher post-pandemic. And 40% reported feeling so depressed that it was difficult for them to function within the past year. Are common symptoms of burnout. A lot of times during this time, I know after I see my students, once they reach their hours in internship, I see this slump. It's like that pre-senioritis, right? And they're juniors, they're not even reached seniors yet. And, a lot of them say, well, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. And a lot of times too, that's signs of burnout. So once again, identifying that even for our students as well. I'm just going to move this over so I can see the next one. Okay. The third stat, those involved in research, a lot of us are doing research. So scientific, even they is, experiencing burnout as well. So once again, the PLOS1 found out over 40% of researchers surveyed experienced high level of stress, which contribute to burnout. So imagine if you're a researcher, you're a professor, and you have your other roles outside of your job. So you may also too be experiencing research. And also too, over 40% of PhD students, so we're pivoting back to the students who are PhD level, experience moderate to high levels of psychological distress, which can contribute to burnout. So when I was looking at this research, I also noticed none of the curriculum stated, hey, let's talk about, taking care of yourselves as a student, as a faculty member. It's just like, hey, go figure it out. You got to go through this process in order for you to reach, the level of, obtaining your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, your PhD, or just even, becoming a faculty member. So, those are just some stats that I wanted to bring to you all. You definitely can take pictures of it and really think about those stats. Those are pretty high. So as I mentioned before, I'll do this presentation with my social work folks. Sorry about that. And these are just some real life thoughts during my presentation people had pretty much told me about. So the first one, and this was very alarming. This was one of my colleagues in my presentation last year. She stated, I have known 3 people in a matter of 3 weeks who died on their job, young people from age range 35 to 42 years old. Very alarming. Number 2, transference of energy, emotions, and trauma are real. You are taking on the burdens of others without even knowing. Hence why I got into aromatherapy, and my office space is a safe and therapeutic space where my colleagues and students come to inhale goodness and exhale negativity. So this was actually taken from one of my colleagues. I just did this presentation in New Orleans a few weeks ago, and I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, aromatherapy, everyone can go in there, and she has like scents of the week, and I was like, I love that. I'm gonna have to, add that to my self-care strategy. Number 3, I didn't learn anything about self-care, burnout, or compassion fatigue as a student. I was going through my invisible struggles and thought having a meltdown was part of being a tenure track faculty. Having a meltdown, experiencing mental health, experiencing depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues, and there was no support. The fourth one, a mentee recently called me and stated she was thinking about leaving the profession because she's overwhelmed with hearing about abuse and violence her clients encounter. Her family is concerned because she feels that she can be in danger. So this was one of my social work colleagues was talking about a mentee. And once again, when you see those things, that's compassion fatigue. That's burnout. That what can lead to burnout. That's vicarious trauma that we don't talk about either. When we hear our students come in to our office for office hours, or just even probably during our lecture time, students may say, "Hey, I'm dealing with domestic violence. You got gun safety violence, all type of things that can cause vicarious trauma onto us as faculty members. And what do we do with that?" All right. So we're going to go ahead to poll number 2. And this one here, have you ever experienced this associative episode? So this is like, how did I get home? Right? How did I get home while driving? When you arrive home without a clear recollection of the journey. So we're going to cue that poll. Well, we have 72% yes. We have 9% no, maybe, not sure. Okay. So we see a lot of yes being okay. So 62% say yes, absolutely. Especially when you're dealing with, let me go to the chat. Okay, no worries. Especially when you're dealing with a day in which is nonstop. You just got finished with your class, you have to go to a faculty meeting, maybe dealing with crises on campus or in the classroom, right? And you just go home and you're like, how did I get home? Oh my gosh. And sometimes you may need that 5 to 10 minutes in your car to just breathe and just say, okay, I have to transition from, academia me to now personal me, right? So, that's what's called a dissociation. You're just like, how did I get here? You're having that out of body experience and you're like, did someone drive me home, right? So thank you all for being transparent and really, answering, excuse me, the poll question. So I'm gonna stop sharing and we're gonna go ahead to the next slide. And thank you all for engaging too. I'm like looking in the chat. So thank you all. All right. So I grew up, I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the 90s. In the 90s, it was the Real World. Tammy was on the Real World in San Francisco. And so, I pretty much put her picture when it comes to for compassion fatigue. So it basically said, I'm basically fed up. So when you get compassion fatigue, it's like, I'm sick of peopling. And let's be honest, everyone, we're all human. Sometimes we're like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I did back-to-back lectures. I had back-to-back meetings. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of talking. I tell people I'm an ambivert. I was like, I have an extroverted job in which I have to pour my energy and speak to folks every day. But a lot of times I'm an introvert. I like to garden. I like to have time to self-reflect. So compassion fatigue, we're seeing this term on the rise. Usually you'll hear about compassion fatigue in the helping professions such as social work, frontline workers like your healthcare workers, police officers, but we all experience this thing called compassion fatigue. So it's pretty much like I've been talking about the manifestation of just the emotional and physical exhaustion of, yes, we also may be caregivers outside of our work, but we're performing acts of service day in and day out for our institutions, for our students, for our colleagues. So you're just like, I'm tired. I have to do this. And then I have to stop when I'm doing at 4 or 5 o'clock, transition to my personal life, be a caretaker there. And also too, we're taking on people's trauma. Students are coming to you talking about their trauma. Then sometimes we're like, well, what do I do with that? Also too, you may be dealing with your own trauma of maybe a loss, maybe you're grieving something. in which you're like, I don't have time to deal with that. I just have to keep moving forward. So compassion fatigue is also too hearing this same trauma day in and day out. So once again, when I was practicing as a social worker, hearing about different trauma, I worked as a hospice social worker. So hearing about people death and dying day in, day out. You're going to meetings. Hey, 5 people died today. That's definitely will create a space for you to have compassion fatigue because you're becoming desensitized from it as well. And this also leads to burnout. It leads to apathy. Once you keep hearing that same story over and over about, let's say a student can't comprehend something in the classroom. Maybe they need an ADA. And then after the fact, you're like, this student don't understand. Who cares? If they turn their work, who cares? If they don't, who cares, right? So that's what leads to apathy. That what leads to you becoming burnt out as well. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Shauna. Watch the news daily, right? You feel like it's a hamster wheel. Negative, negative, negative. You may have one positive story that's inserted into the news. I know a lot of people say I give myself 15 minutes to watch the news because once again, that can lead to the road of compassion fatigue. Like I said before, it can manifest into something that's numbness. You become irritable, difficulty sleeping. I like to give my 6 to 8 hours of rest. And when you find that's being disrupted, you're like, okay, I need to see, what's numbing me. Also too, loss of enjoyment in activities, right? Once upon a time, you may have been this average runner and you don't run anymore because once again, you're hearing this day out, day in, day out. I would say the trauma stories from the news, and like I said, even maybe from your own personal life. So that's compassion fatigue. Okay, so how many of you all probably have felt like this on the right-hand side? Like, I'm just tired. Also too, it says, talk about 2020. Yeah, people raise their hand like, yes, this has been me, probably me now in the office. So this is going back to compassion fatigue. This young lady's like, you know what? I'm just tired of people and or whatever's going on, or maybe just had a tough year. And I always say compassion fatigue plus secondary trauma equals to burnout. And there's a lot of studies that's being researched about occupational hazard. When I got hired at Tuskegee, I got hired in the midst of COVID. And, I was like, yay, I was excited. But, the students wasn't so excited because they're like, I'm zoomed out. I had to do my internship virtually. I don't know what's going on with my health. People was getting COVID multiple times. So, of course, with any profession or professional, you're dealing with all those mixed emotions, like, where is this going to lead me to, my short-term health, long-term health, from a faculty standpoint, are the students really retaining the information, right? How do we know they're retaining the information? Are they there behind the screen? What's going on? So many of us probably have looked like this on the right-hand side, like, okay, are they getting it? Also, to once again, dealing with the stress. Maybe we have dealt with a enormous amount of stress during that time during COVID. And also too, some people may have to go on campus as well. So it's the uncertainty of, okay, now I got to go back on campus because we was removed so quickly from campus. What is that going to look like moving forward? How is that going to impact my, mental, physical, spiritual health, especially if you, immune compromised? Also too, I have children at home, I have a family at home, or, maybe you're the caretaker of, elderly parents or family members. What does that look like? And then that internalized to trauma, dealing with, like someone said, seeing the news every day, how many people was dying from COVID? What are they going to do with the bodies, right? So that's definitely triggering for all of us, especially if we don't know how to navigate death and loss. And we're seeing such a tremendous amount of aftermath of COVID now. COVID brain, students are like, now I'm back on campus, like, can I just, do hybrid now, even though you may have a campus that's face to face. So that leads into burnout, working too much, working from home. It seems like your days just go all into one. There's no separation. It's like everything, starts at let's say 8 o'clock, and then 8 p.m. you're still in front of the computer. So, what do we do with that? What do we do with, those resources? Do we have resources to support us to have that cutoff point? Do we have that support system to cut to say, hey, you're working a little bit too much? Going back to, like I was saying, depression and anxiety. Have your hair been falling out? Have you been having heart palpitations? Is it hard for you to get out of bed? So those are signs that you need to really look at, because you may be on the road to burnout. Like I mentioned before, when I had opened up, when I was burnt out, it was tough for me to get out of bed. I did not know what was going on. I work out pretty much 3-4 times out the week. I went from that to like not want to work out, not barely being able to get out the bed, having migraines every day. So I didn't know about this information till I started going through it myself, and also to have to have research about it. Even when I was going to my primary care doctors, they're like, I don't know what's going on. So, once again, really have that self-check within self. How's my heart today? When's the last time I took a vacation? When's the last time I really, let's say even drunk water today, right? Those are basic things that we need to have a check-in with ourselves. Am I compassionate about the work? If not, what is leading me to this road of, really having a disdain for my work? Okay. So just wanted to share that with you all. Okay. Vicarious trauma. So this is a sensitive subject in which we don't hear much about vicarious trauma. Vicarious trauma is just pretty much, once again, going day in and day out, dealing with individuals who have experienced trauma. Now the transference of trauma is onto you. So yes, you can get trauma by watching the news, but once again, dealing with students who may be first generation students who financial aid is running out. A trauma for them may be, hey, I may have to take a leave this semester because the financial aid is running out. And maybe the student is aged out the system. They was a foster care student, right? And, that means that may be homelessness. So hearing their stories, that may create a trauma for you, because we have boundaries as faculty members and limitations of what we can do for our students as well. So number one, as I mentioned here, faculty members in fields such as psychology, social work, healthcare, criminal justice often encounter traumatic content through their teaching, research, and clinical work. As I mentioned before, being a social worker is so much curriculum, that's dealing with trauma-based. A lot of programs are trauma-informed based, in which they're helping students to navigate what trauma look like and what does vicarious trauma look like, right? So many times when we're preparing for our classes, we can be exposed to this trauma, by doing our research, watching the news, to have those case studies. And so we're exposing ourselves day in, day out to vicarious trauma. Number two, empathy and compassion. Like I said, we can be very apathetic once we experience vicarious trauma on a daily basis. Also, too, we can go from being very empathetic, compassionate individuals who want to what? We want to invest in the whole student. But, sometimes when you have, once again, lack of resources, on our campus, what does that look like? How can we support our students in other means? And sometimes we may not have, the greatest support or resources on campus. So once again, you're spinning the wheels, right? And you're constantly thinking about that student or your students who may be in a tough situation, which can lead to vicarious trauma. Because now we're turning it inward, like, oh, what can I do? I can't do much. Maybe if I do this, but if I do this, I'm breaking the rules. Boundaries, and I know some of you all have mentioned boundaries. Having clear boundaries between your personal life and also your professional life, right? And I think a lot of times people say, well, leave the work at work. I'm a believer in that. And I know some people be like, I can't leave the work at work. And sometimes the work is at home because you're working from home, right? But once again, it's establishing those spaces in your home if you can, to really say, hey, my office space is my office space for work, and every other space in my home is my peaceful space, right? So both worlds won't collide, and every time you see the computer, it may traumatize you, because if you open it up, here goes an email from a student or from your colleague or from administration. Let's say you're getting a new administration in the fall, and that can cause some type of trauma, some type of trigger. Like, this is the 5th president we went through in 8 years, I'm just saying. But really, this is when you have to really prioritize self-care and engage in activities that's going to, once again, have that boundary. Leave work at work, whether it's in another office space from your home, whether it's on campus, and really have a life outside of work. Work is always going to be there, but have a life outside of work. Okay, let me go to the chat. Okay. Oh, wow. We're just flowing. Okay, so we are flowing. All right, so we are going to go to the symptoms of secondary trauma. And so just touching on it a little bit. So this is the holistic, pretty much manifestation of secondary trauma, compassion fatigue. So they're pretty much interconnected. They're both the same. So once again, we talked about apathy, even perfectionism, right? That's even, it can weigh on us. Like, I have to make sure everything's perfect before I publish, or, who cares if these students get the lecture today? I'm tired. Emotional, you're constantly angry. You went from being happy-go-lucky to being angry or just being numbness. Also, too, let me move this over. Oh, let me go back. Sorry, everyone. Oh, no. Going back to the physical piece, increased heart rate, heart palpitations, difficulty breathing, impaired immune system, right? So you're constantly sick. So just wanted to show you all the symptoms. All right, our last poll question. This one is going to be, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well are you managing stress, anxiety, overall mental health, or your mental wellness? So on a scale from 1 to 10, where are you at on the charts of managing stress, anxiety, and overall mental well-being? And we give you all until 1 minute. Okay, we got some 3s, some 4s, some 5s, some 7s, some 8s. Oh yeah, I like the 8s. See, we have like kind of like a tie between 4 and 5. Okay, we have a tie between 7 and 8. Okay. So 2 more seconds. All right. So we have a lot of folks coming in at 7, 8, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that's okay, because we're gonna run through the strategies. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing as well. So we're gonna move on to the next slide. And thank you all for engaging in the chat. All right, so now navigating challenges on campuses. Once again, several studies have highlighted that challenges faculty members of color may face, feeling their isolation, campus safety. I know this past Sunday I was looking at on the news that Delaware State had, I think it was a shooting on campus. And so, dealing with that, microaggressions, tokenism, additional service expectations related to diversity and inclusion efforts. Here in Alabama, that's been a big topic. A lot of our universities have been dealing with the exclusion of DEI efforts on campus, even at HBCUs as well, which is interesting. And these factors can once again, emotionally exhaust you, depersonalize, and also reduce personal accomplishments, keys to component of burnout. Okay, so this is some self-care, a holistic approach. I look at self-care as holistic. It's not just one thing, it's all holistic. I know some of you all said that you're avid, you work out, you take walks, which is awesome. So physical care, establishing a regular sleep schedule. I'm usually in the bed by 10 o'clock because I'm like, okay, I have to get those 8 hours of sleep. Something basic as, once again, instead of reaching for a soda, drinking some water, something that's going to replenish you physically. emotionally, practicing self-compassion. That's important. Giving yourself grace, giving yourself, hey, I'm doing a good job. I'm, doing the best that I can. You woke up this morning, you got out of bed. So definitely give yourself, self-compassion for that. Also, too, boundaries. I know a lot of you all have mentioned about boundaries, learning how to say no. That's very big. So many people are like, well, I just can't say no. Yes, you can. Saying no sometimes will save your life. Professional self-care, advocating for your needs when it comes to your colleagues, your department chair, your dean, the president, whatever role that you're in at your university. That's very important. So needs can be, having more of a safe space for your office space. Selecting, having realistic expectations for your work. And I think so many times we feel like I can do it all, but once again, that's on the road to burnout. And the last one is social self-care. So having a social life is important. If you're an introvert, it's getting warm, finding a festival or, going to the beach, doing something in which you are, creating that support system, that community. Okay. Just some free self-care things that I have created and found as well. Like I said, getting enough sleep, exercise. Someone has said prayer, meditation, gardening, cleaning up, burning your favorite candle, listen to music, watch a comedy show, enroll into therapy. That's very important. I think so many times we underutilize therapy or EAP programs on campus. Taking a vacation or a mental health day, very important. And so on the list on the right-hand side, it talks about tapping into your creativity, bake, even though you may not be the best baker or cooker, but, there's so many amazing recipes that you can, find on campus. I remember campus online. So faculty resources, something that we need to utilize, faculty senate and association. So organizations that help us, they advocate for our needs, right? So using them. Having a faculty lounge or a common space. If you don't have that, see if you can, develop that. Like I said, the colleague that that was at my conference a few weeks ago was saying, hey, her space is a safe space for the aromatherapy space. Health and wellness programs. EAP is so important. You get at least like 8 to 12 weeks of employee assistance. So this can be therapy. This dealing with any type of therapy. You just lost a loved one. If you're dealing with, let's say, a loved one who may have an addiction, whatever the case is, this is already a fringe benefit towards you. Sometimes they already have it, at the counseling center. It's not always, utilized by faculty, but see if you can utilize it as well. And also, too, you have the 988, which you can text now, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So these are my references. And also, too, just some takeaways. So don't forget to prioritize your personal well-being. So, make sure that you share one key takeaway with your colleagues today. Also, to prioritize your self-care so preventing burnout and establishing boundaries. So remember, it's okay to say no. Don't further go into the no because people can talk you out of the no, right? So those are just 3 key takeaways that's easy for us to utilize. And don't overthink self-care. Like I said, it could be something that's deep breathing, before the transition of, your next class. So this is just my contact information, more area view of Tuskegee. I want to say thank you all so much for attending this workshop. You can definitely connect with me further. I wrote 2 books, one on self-care for brown girls. I co-authored this with a good friend of mine when I was going through my own self-care journey, and also to manifest your greatness through a goal setting, how to really achieve goals. So you can definitely connect with me. The QR code, hopefully it works, because I know like people like it's not working. So I really jazz it up. If not, you all will have my information and can connect with me on LinkedIn. So thank you all. And if are there any questions? Oh, good. Thank you.
Before we just go into questions, I'm just going to drop the evaluation for this session in the chat, as well as our LinkedIn the page, the link to our LinkedIn, the TLC LinkedIn page, if anybody would like to follow us if they do not already. Also, I've also included the link and the QR code on the slide that Andrea has pushed forward. If you want to get in touch with anybody from the Teaching and Learning Center, myself, my email is listed there, as well as Geneva Dampere, the Director of Strategy and Operations for the center, as well as just the center email. So you can contact us with any of those emails, and someone will get back to you. But if there's any questions or comments, I will be happy to push this back in.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And like I said, I hope there's one, takeaway that you all can definitely share with your colleagues, even for those who, when you have your faculty meetings, don't just so many times we just do what business as usual, really just take at least 2 minutes and ask how's everyone day, because, that makes a world of a difference in building, synergy with your colleagues instead of just it's business as usual. You just never know what people are suffering with and suffering in silence as well. So thank you all. And thank you all for the encouragement. Thank you.
So we're gonna be at like 12:50. I know we slot for 12:45. So if people have to jump off, that's totally fine. We can also stay a little bit longer if anybody has anything that they want to share or anything that any questions they have or insights on how they practice self-care or how they don't practice self-care and would like to, feel free to unmute. If not, we can close things out for today, and I can give everyone like 10 minutes back of their day. But if there is any comments or questions, feel free.
Thank you.
No other questions or comments. I think that we can end for today. Thank you so much, Andrea, for that wonderful presentation. I think we talk a lot about students and what's happening inside the classroom and different like pedagogy and different practices, but I don't think we take a look at behind the scenes and like what it takes to get to the classroom and be successful. So happy to kind of bring this back to self-care, and as simple as it could be, but it often gets overlooked. So hoping everyone is able to glean some practices that work for them from here and incorporate them into their schedule. So thank you all again. And we hope to see you at the last session in 2 weeks. But thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone. Have a good rest of your semester. Bye,
Great
everyone.
information. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.